So is Cody Bellinger plan A for the Yankees this offseason, or do they have something else in mind? What's going on, everybody? Hope you're all doing well. Happy Friday. So the playoffs are still going. There's 2 games left. Game 5 ALDS, Game 5 NLDS, and then we'll have the final 4 teams: ALCS, NLCS. All right, the Blue Jays are in. The Dodgers are in. We're still waiting for either the Cubs or the Brewers, or the Tigers and the Mariners. We'll find out the American League today, the National League tomorrow. So, and once that happens, we'll figure out what the strategy is for the ALCS and the NLCS, and we'll give you my prediction. So again, if you're a baseball fan, no matter what, I know, and this is mostly a Yankees channel, but if you just love baseball altogether, please make sure that you hit the like button if you enjoy this content enough to come back, and you're subscribed to the channel. So I do not discriminate against non-Yankees either. We talk about everybody here, right? And we're going to be very busy this offseason. I'm working on a lot of content, including free agent predictions, offseason predictions, and so on and so forth. But one topic I wanted to talk about today, I wanted to elaborate on some things I talked about yesterday. 5 important decisions for the Yankees to make this offseason. I wanted to elaborate on one of them. It was Cody Bellinger. Now, if you haven't heard, he's decided to opt out today. He's elected free agency. It's no surprise, right? This is his opportunity to cash in. He's 30 years old. He's represented by Scott Boras. And obviously, he had a $25 million option for 2026, but there's nothing beyond that. So the way he played, he definitely parlayed himself into a significant contract, probably between 150 and 200 million, if I had to guess, right? So there will be a handful of teams competing for his services. We know that already. And then, there's chatter already about a couple teams, and I know the Yankees have expressed, desire to bring him back, and he's also shown a willingness. He says, I'm open to coming back to the Yankees as well. He liked it here. We liked him. He was happy. He played well. So it was almost like a match made in heaven here. Okay. So, but one of the things is, the other option out there is Kyle Tucker, right? I mentioned him yesterday. He would be essentially the competition. Why do I bring him up? Well, the suggestion was probably going to be he's a great fit, right? Cody Bellinger, and he provides most of the value of Kyle Tucker, but at a lot less money, right? Now, the logic makes sense. They're both 30 years old, or going into the age 30 season. So, and they're both great players. Kyle Tucker might have a little bit more of a star pedigree name-wise than Bellinger does, according to some folks. But Bellinger played well here. And we know he can handle New York too. That's a fit. That's the key. Can you handle New York? Not everybody can. We know he can. But I don't want to get this twisted, because a couple years ago, we kind of were in that same situation with Anthony Rizzo, right? Remember the suggestion that, well, Anthony Rizzo can provide most of the value of Matt Olson or Freddie Freeman at a fraction of the price. This is a similar approach that the Yankees took. Now, I'm not saying they're going to take that approach to Bellinger, but I know it's being talked about quite a bit. And I've even mentioned it too. Why is Tucker worth $200 or $300 million more than Bellinger? Like, that's a legitimate question to ask, right? But at the time, Anthony Rizzo was also older. I think he might have been older than Freeman and Olson at the time too, significantly older than Olson. I think it was 28. And Freeman's MVP player, Olson's an all-star player, studs, right? We know this already, clutch players. So Anthony Rizzo was great for us until he got hurt, until he got a concussion. Then he was a shell of himself after that. So I would be careful using that approach when it came to this. If they decide to go over Bellinger over Tucker, then they should be comfortable explaining the reasons why. Beyond he's going to cost less. It's got to be more than that. It's got to be more than that, right? I mentioned this yesterday too. After the last couple of years, 2 years ago, the biggest free agent signing was Shohei Ohtani. Went to the Dodgers. Last year, the biggest free agent signing was Juan Soto, went to the Mets. Okay, the Yankees have more money coming off the books than the Mets and the Dodgers do this offseason. So now's the time to strike if they want the biggest free agent prize. And the biggest free agent prize is Kyle Tucker, offensively. Now, I still think they need another bat beyond that because we have to exercise discipline and patience and a lot of things that we didn't really show in the playoffs. And again, Shohei Ohtani was not even a fraction of how good Aaron Judge was in his postseason. He's still playing, but his supporting cast has shown up a heck of a lot more than Aaron Judge's supporting cast showed up, right? And that includes Cody Bellinger and Jazz to a degree, and Trent Grisham, right? Ben Rice. A lot of these guys were nowhere to be found. Anthony Volpe, nowhere to be found, right? And Aaron Judge needed these guys. Would Kyle Tucker represent the better value or a better complementary piece, a better Robin to Batman of Judge than Bellinger would? Because the thought of last year was Soto was that superstar, right? To go along with Judge. Yes, he was. And then he moved on to the Mets for his reasons, and then we pivoted with some very good players. And we lengthened the lineup. We got a hell of a lot more balance and a lot of things. But in typical fashion for the Yankees, when guys get hot, they get hot in bunches. When the guys get cold, they get cold in bunches. And they got cold a ton in bunches in the postseason in the bats. It's almost like they forgot how to hit. Okay. Now, and I also can't guarantee that Tucker would come in and change all those things, right? Because the fact of the matter is we may lose Bellinger, we may lose Goldschmidt. Okay, the report saying that he would like to come back. The report saying he'd like to retire. So we just don't know. But I do think Ben Rice has done enough to replace him at first base, right? So for a fraction of the price at being 15 years younger. So there's that, right? So, when it comes to this, I would not use that same logic we use with Anthony Rizzo in comparing him to those guys, and for those reasons. There's got to be different reasons. It's a different situation, different position, different age, right? Cody Bellinger has already shown he can fit here. Anthony Rizzo didn't show that before he was traded here, right? But he could. But they chose him in free agency over everybody else, and they chose to trade for him as well. They could have signed Matt Olson in free agency. They could have signed Freddie Freeman in free agency. Those guys cost a pretty penny. And Matt Olson was actually a trade, He got traded from the A's. Freddie Freeman signed the free agency. So they chose to trade for Rizzo instead of Matt Olson. That was a decision the Yankees made, right? Now, he was a veteran, a pro, an absolute, classy guy, no doubt about it. And elite with the glove while he was here. But he had some injury problems, and he was also older when they brought him in. Olson has a 50 home run season to his belt. He's consistently productive with the Braves. And Freddie Freeman, Freddie Freeman already. We know what he did to the Yankees in the World Series last year. So we know these guys. And Freddie Freeman is part of that supporting cast for Shohei Ohtani. When he strikes out 4 times, you got Freeman, you got Mookie, you got Teoscar Hernandez, you got Kike, you got all these other guys beyond him. And we had all those guys too, but they didn't show up this postseason, right? So that's part of this question. Is Bellinger Plan A, and why is he Plan A if he is? Or is something else in the works, and why is it in the works? I think this needs to be answered by the decision makers. Aaron Boone is not the one who signs these players, who negotiates in the war room with the agents. The GMs are, and the owners are. So this is a Cashman and a Hal thing to be able to answer, and I hope that they can answer them credibly, right? And I want to know what your thoughts are, right? Do you want Bellinger back, or why? Would you prefer Kyle Tucker, and why, right? And let's just say Bellinger and Grisham leave. Then I think the aggressiveness to go after Kyle Tucker would be more significant. Or if Aaron Judge needs to get a procedure done on his elbow, he's going to miss several months. Do they bring back Bellinger and Grisham? Or do they try to bring him back Bellinger and Kyle Tucker? And the signing Kyle Tucker, who's connected to a QO, who would be, and would he be offset by the QO that they would get, or the compensation they would get giving Trent Grisham a QO and walking and signing somewhere else in free agency? That can balance each other out to a degree. Tucker and Bellinger. I mean, Tucker and Grisham in terms of compensation. He's going to cost a hell of a lot more than Grisham, but that's something to factor in too. Bellinger, can you imagine Bellinger and Tucker and Judge? Or would it be Tucker, Spencer Jones, Judge, and save that money for Bellinger and allocate it elsewhere if they decide not to do that as well? And if they're going to move on from Bellinger, they're going to have to replace him somehow with a bat, right? And Tucker's as good as it gets to replace him in the outfield. I don't know who they would replace him otherwise, how they would replace him otherwise. Because Dominguez and Jones is not going to be enough to replace Bellinger and Grisham, at least not right off the bat. So Kyle Tucker gives him that star pedigree, right? But this is the one piece of the puzzle I wanted to elaborate on today. I'll be elaborating on the other pieces soon. If you haven't seen the video, I put it out yesterday. 5 difficult decisions for the Yankees have to make this offseason. And they're logical, within reason, and they're very fair to ask these folks. Very fair to ask them, right? There's no need to play the blame game, the narrative game. These are good questions to ask. And all due respect to them, they should be willing to be able to answer them, right? Credibly. So, but give me your take one way or the other, all right? And if any other news comes out today, aside from the Cody Bellinger news, you'll be getting it here. No doubt about it. Just like you always will. Have a good day, everybody. Peace and love. And I'll see y'all next time.